Hi, Dr. Monty Klein here with this week's newsletter video to talk to you about salt. Okay, important subject with food. Now, no food has probably been falsely demonized more than salt. With this brief video, I want to tackle some of the myths that have become pretty mainstream about salt. Fact number one, sodium, which you get from salt, is an essential nutrient. It's a nutrient a lot of people are deficient in as a result of avoiding salt. Now, I have some special knowledge on this because I have Addison's disease, adrenal gland failure, which was diagnosed in 1991. Now, part of adrenal failure involves the adrenal hormone aldosterone, which regulates sodium levels in the cells. Now, when you don't have enough sodium, you become very weak with muscle aches and nausea. You can also have muscle spasms, muscle cramps, heart palpitations, and other symptoms. And then there's weight loss. Now, without proper sodium levels in your body will not properly retain fluids, and so your weight drops. Now, when I was diagnosed with Addison's disease in the hospital in 1991, my weight had dropped to 137 pounds. Now, I typically weigh around 170. Now, part of my management of this condition involves very frequently using salt, but I would add that there is good salt and there is bad salt, and we're going to talk more on that later. Now, fact number two, salt does not necessarily cause high blood pressure, and thus low salt diets and diuretic prescription drugs, which doctors love to put anyone on with high blood pressure, may just cause the fatigue, the muscle weakness, and other symptoms of sodium deficiency that I mentioned earlier. There's a new book out by Dr. James D. Nicolantonio, a doctor of pharmacy, called The Salt Fix: Why the Experts Got It All Wrong and How Eating More Might Save Your Life. Now, here's a quote from his book. Patients were put on this low-salt diet and were having all these symptoms like muscle fatigue, muscle spasm, cramps, and heart palpitations. They said their doctors ordered them not to add salt to their food because they have high blood pressure. Yet they were suffering from all these new symptoms of salt deficiency. What I ended up doing is kind of pushing back and telling my patients, you really need to go to your doctor's office. Tell them these symptoms you're having, and get your blood sodium levels drawn because you might be deficient in salt. Sure enough, these people were severely dehydrated. They had low sodium levels in their blood. Within a few days of just upping their salt intake, all these symptoms went away. Right there, I knew that this low salt advice was just not panning out in the real world. End quote. Fact number three, blood pressure reductions from the DASH diet, that's dietary approaches to stop hypertension, are likely due more to the fact that this diet also reduces processed foods and refined sugar. Now, refined sugar, I believe, is a much bigger issue with hypertension and most other health problems for that matter. Fact number four, according to Dr. D. Nicolantonio, the reduction of blood pressure on a low-salt diet also results in a worsening of the cholesterol to high-density lipoprotein, HDL, ratio, which is one of the best predictors of cardiovascular disease. Now, worse LDL, low-density lipoprotein, and triglycerides tend to also result from the reduction of salt. Now, in other words, a low-salt diet, rather than preventing cardiovascular disease, may actually be setting you up for it. Fact number five, we consume only a fraction of the amount of salt that our ancestors did. Well, we all know that salt used to be heavily used before refrigeration. In times past, it's estimated that our forebears consumed 10 times the amount of salt we consume today, 100 grams of salt per day compared to 10 grams today. But we have much higher rates of high blood pressure than they did way back then. So what's the deal? Now, Dr. D. Nicolantonio notes that the rise in hypertension, obesity, and diabetes actually started in the early 1900s as salt intake was being decreased. Now, there's never been any evidence that an increase in salt intake has ever paralleled any rise in any chronic disease. Even today, we can observe that the Japanese and the South Koreans, who have this very high salt intake, yet they live the longest. Okay, so how can that be if they have the really high salt intake and they live longer than everybody else? So again, doesn't make sense. Fact number 6, so what is the deal? Well, time after time, conventional medicine, with its willing accomplices in the media, will get on a bandwagon and beat the drum till all the lemmings are jumping off the cliff with them. Now, we've seen that on flu shots, which are neither effective nor safe, yet people are propagandized into getting them. We've seen that with low-fat foods in the name of preventing cardiovascular disease, though like low-salt foods, they create the problem. They're supposed to help and cause other problems as well. So don't fall for the propaganda. When everyone is beating the drum, telling you to hop on their bandwagon to save your health, be wary, think it through, see if it really makes sense. I hate to sound like a 60s radical, but challenge the establishment. It's almost always wrong. Fact number 7, there is good salt and bad salt. Now, for over 15 years, I've been writing about the difference between processed, additive-laden salt and more natural salt. I do not recommend regular table salt. Let me make that perfectly clear. As you would buy in the store, as you have sitting on your table probably right now, as you have sitting on the table at the restaurant you eat at. It is processed to remove everything but the sodium chloride, eliminating all the trace minerals simply because the sodium chloride salt is used not just for human consumption, but as a chemical reagent. Okay, 90% of the sodium chloride salt is used for chemical purposes, not for human consumption. So they don't want to have any other minerals in it. Now, on top of that, it's bleached to make it that pure white color, so more chemicals in your body. Then they add aluminum compounds as anti-caking agents, aluminum being a neurotoxin. It's associated with Alzheimer's and other conditions. But they also often add dextrose, corn sugar, again as an anti-caking agent. Adding refined sugar to your salt is a double insult. Now, though there are a number of more natural salt products which have a range of trace minerals and have not been bleached or had additives put in, one stands out above all the rest in my opinion. I've used it for over 15 years. I recommend it to all my clients. It's called Celtic Sea Salt. Now, it comes from a specially protected preserve on the Brittany coast of France, where salt farming has been done the same way for centuries with only air and sun drying of the salt. Now, Celtic sea salt has all 84 minerals that are found in seawater and in near identical proportion to the way those minerals are found in your body, in your blood serum, and also in a baby's amniotic fluid. Same ratio. Now, one of the main advantages of Celtic sea salt over inland salts that are mined is that it's alive. It's alive with enzymes because there's no heat processing used, just sun and air. Inland salts may have a wide range of trace minerals, so I don't know, probably not all 84 that are found in seawater, but they are biologically dead. There's no enzyme activity in them. Now, one more thing, don't think that so-called sea salt at the health food store or grocery store is the same thing. The term sea salt just means that it was derived from seawater. Most so-called sea salt has the trace minerals refined out of it and is bleached. If that sea salt is pure, sparkling white, you know it's been refined and or bleached. In other words, it's the same thing as regular table salt, so don't pay extra for it. Celtic sea salt's available from us on our website at www.pacifichealthcenter.com or by phone at 1-800-255-4246. Also, be sure to check out our special for this week in the newsletter, expiring soon, on the Pacific Health Balancing Program. And thanks so much for watching this video.